It's Mother's Day, which means it's May of the wonderful year 2023. And we're going this, so this is entitled Mother's Day 2023. We're going to talk about some mothers, but the best place to start is in Genesis 1:1. So let's go to Genesis 1:1. It's a difficult place to find in your Bible, but when you get there, we got a million wonderful truths in this first verse, but I just want to take it back to the beginning. And that's what we're talking about. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay. He's the one behind it. I always enjoyed Albert Einstein realization that there was a God, because he was a Jew, and he's kind of a bright man. And he just kind of followed everything back and realized that to get everything in the universe there, you had to have somebody start it. And that's where he concluded there had to be a God, because just simple logic going all the way back, you couldn't have aliens to do it. You couldn't have electrical charges. There had to be something behind it. And then when you explore it, it all fits together very nicely. So the only explanation was God created the heavens and the earth. It comes back down to God. Now, that is where it stayed for a long time in the country, until in the 1800s, the adversary around 1848 decided to disrupt everything. And he worked on music with Wagner and spiritism for the counter religion. And you got science being blown up. And a guy named Karl Marx, his book, became a must read in all the schools and everything. And because of all of that, you had 15 nations in Europe fighting each other. And that's what happens when there's lots and lots of confusion. They fight each other. So when I was a youngster in the 70s, they came up with a thing called global warming. And I was freezing in the Chicago winters. So that sounded like a great idea to have, the global just warm. I'm all for that. But then when nothing changed from the late 60s, 70s, all the way through to now, they had to make it even more impressive and call it not global warming, but not, because that's just one small part of it. You got climate change. Guess what? You've had climate change since the flood of Noah. That's when you introduced really climate change. So the thing is that it was designed, as it was with the with the theory of evolution, to disrupt the scientific field. So you don't let the we got to let the science speak. We can't have the Bible speak anymore. We can't have authority, that being our authority. Of course, that got changed too in the last 3 years. But anyway, we go to Genesis 1:26, because God put the whole thing together, and there's going to be a lot of things that people just accept. You tell a lie long enough, then people just assume it. I just remember when I was teaching 7th grade science, when I took a class on the Bible, and I was coming up on teaching the theory of evolution. So in a page and a half, I circled everything that said that it's a theory, maybe, perhaps, and all that. And there's 18 places in that paragraph, in that page and a half, and I showed that to the students. And, they said, look, it's a theory, and there's lots and lots of theories out there. A lot of people have gotten wealthy off of their theories because people are pretty accepting overall. Genesis 1:26, we move to this point. And God said, let us. It's going to be such a tremendous thing that's going to be there on the earth. So that's why it's in the plural. Let us make man in our image. God's image is spirit. John 4:24. So let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And then I'm going to give him carte blanche over this earth, with this thing that I've made. He'll have dominion over fish, dominion over birds, dominion over cattle. Yes, beef. Okay. And dominion over all the earth, even the creepy things, even the things that are creeping around the earth that, we don't really like, spiders and things like that. So God said it's a good idea, and then he did it in 27. God created man in his own image. Image of God created he him, male and female created he them. God blessed them, male and female. It's Mother's Day, but to have a mother, you still got to have a father. Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, have dominion over fish, birds, and everything on the earth. And that's what happened. A great thing. So we receive spirit. And then verse 31, this is a chapter 1 pretty much is a quick overview. 31, though, is God's take on what he did. Right. Male and female. 31. God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Very good. All right. So how he put everything together, fit together, it worked great. Even Einstein thought it was great. So it's very good. Then we go to 2:7, and we back up now and get in more details. The Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground. He went to the beach and he made himself a man. And then he breathed into the nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So a man was fully formed at that time. I had somebody call me and ask me about that recently. Yes, he had to be fully formed. He wouldn't have made gave him all this stuff, if he was an equivalent to a 5-year-old. So the Lord God formed man dust of the ground, breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man started to breathe on his own. He was a living soul. All right, so let's look at verse 15. And God made a tremendous realization. The Lord God took the man, put him in the Garden of Eden, and said, go to work. Take care of it, work it, keep it, dress it. You have a job. And for the Garden of Eden to stay a garden of paradise, he had to work in it. Okay? And I bet the food was just tremendous that came out on the trees and all of that. All right. So then we go to verse 18. We're in chapter 2, verse 18. And then the Lord God said, something's not quite right here. It's not good that the man should be alone. We need to give him sports. No, wait a minute. That wasn't it. But God said, and this is still very true today. It's not good that the man should be alone. Here's how I'm going to solve the problem. I will make a helpmeet for him, a helper. They can work together and they can improve their living situations and do everything else. And they'll be a team together. Okay. So God was the one who decided he needs something. He needs a helper. All right. So that's what happened. Then 21. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And God took one of the ribs, closed up the flesh, and the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, this is not bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Okay, man is here. It's ish. There's 4 Hebrew words for man, and when you work through them, each of them are really interesting. In fact, Gerber baby food. Gerber is the word for mighty man in the Hebrew, but and ish is one of the words for man, and women is isha, isha. You add isha. You add the a, and so a doctor once said that's now man. Woman has had the last laugh on man forever because it's ish and isha. So then 24, he makes an observation about what's going to happen in the future. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. They work together as a team, as one flesh, for the greater good of the family. Okay, so at this time there was no other father or mother on earth. We're putting the first 2 people there, but God knew what was needed to be done, included it here. So now we have man who has a job in the garden, and his wife who's a helper, and they have functions and what they're supposed to do. We go to chapter 3, verse 6. 1 through 5 is a lead up, and then verse 6 is the mistake that the woman made. She saw the tree was good for food, pleasant to the eyes, tree to be desired to make one wise. She took of the fruit thereof and did eat, gave also unto her husband. He agreed with her, and he did eat. So she enticed him, and he said, okay, I'll give it a shot. Okay, so this was the first bad decision on both parts. And it had, well, shall we say, an effect on all of humanity for the next few thousands of years? Yes. So it was a bad decision based upon lying information, but because of free will, Eve fell for it, and then the man. So let's go to 3:16. Here is the consequence. 3:16. Unto the woman, he said, I'm going to greatly multiply thy sorrow. I looked at that word big time again this morning, and it's interesting because pressure was one of the words that has been used, but it's toil, pain. Having a child is work, hard work. Just getting the child born. And so you're going to have some pressure. You're going to have some pain. I mean, you're going to have some effort in your conception, and then it's going to be effort to bring forth children. And then your desire or your dependency shall be on your husband, and he shall rule over thee. Now, a number of religions have taken this to the extreme, but basically, they're still a team. They're still working together. All right. And he's going to draw consequence in verse 17. God said to Adam, because you have hearkened unto the voice of thy wife and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee. It became down to me or your wife. You chose wrongly. I said, don't eat of it very clearly. Now the ground is going to be cursed, and in sorrow or in pressure and pain shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. We're throwing some thorns and thistles are going to pop up, and you're going to eat. And then verse 19, what you produce, you'll eat. And the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, because out of it you were taken. Dust you are, and dust you shall return. So basically, there were consequences to Eve. There's consequences to Adam because they disobeyed God's commandment. But now, Adam lost his job of taking care of the garden. They have to move now. There's not a moving van you can call, but everything is wrong now. When he works, it's not going to produce like it used to. Eve is going to start having children, and there's going to be a lot of things that happen. 4:1 tells us that Adam knew Eve, his wife. She conceived and bare Cain. It says, I've gotten the man from the Lord. The Hebrew text says, I've gotten the man. I've gotten the Messiah. I got the Redeemer. I got the promised seed. Turns out to be the first murderer, but that's the first child. So since that happened, they had to try again, and they got a couple more children. In fact, they probably got lots more of them. But go to Deuteronomy 5. We're going to fast forward. Deuteronomy 5, verse 16, I believe. Deuteronomy 5:16. Okay. And in Deuteronomy 5:16, Cain set the stage of what all children shouldn't be. But 5:16, okay, we read one of the 10 commandments: honor thy father and thy mother, as the Lord thy God has commanded thee. All right. Why? That thy days may be prolonged, and that it may go well with thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Okay, so that was put into the Big Ten to honor father, honor mother, and then things can go well for you, and God will be able to bless the family unit, and great things will happen. Well, if you stay in Deuteronomy, go to Deuteronomy 21:18, he adds a little something to this. 21:20, he gave the 10, and then he expounded on them. All right, 21:18. So if you've got a child, if a man has a stubborn and rebellious son, so if you've got a child that's not listening and honoring mother and father, and he's stubborn and rebellious, what does the law say you have you have the right to do? If this child won't obey the voice of the father, won't obey the voice of the mother, and that when thou hast chastened him, when you have continued to discipline and work with them and gave them proper instruction and everything, and they don't hearken unto you and unto what you're trying to teach them, here's an option. Verse 19. Then shall his father and his mother lay hold of him, bring him out unto the elders of the city, and unto the gate of his place, and they shall say unto the elders of the city, our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He's become a glutton and a drunkard, a politician's son. All right. And all the men of the city, what should they do? They should stone him with stones, that he die, so that thou shalt put away evil from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. So that is an option if you have a stubborn and rebellious child that won't be disciplined. All right. Then you take him to the elders. They convey. How would you like that? Be the mother and have to make that decision. Dad, I've thought it over. We need to take the son. He fits all the criteria because we have to get evil out of the land. If nobody is introducing evil things via the internet or however, then you don't know about it. It's why God had when they went in the promised land, destroy all the old gods and all the images and all that. Nope, don't have anybody there who could teach you what all those things are because people fall for things. So we're going to have to be able to put away evil from among you. So to do that, we have an evil son, and he has to go away. All right? So, hey, that was an option. And again, it kept things clean. Go to Proverbs 10. Psalm Proverbs 10:1. And we read in Proverbs 10:1, it's the Proverbs of Solomon. A wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is the heaviness or sorrow of his mother. So you get a wise son, he can go play golf, he'll fish, he'll use the lawnmower properly, things like that. But if you got a foolish son, oh, it's a sorrow, a burden, a problem to the mother. All right. So from there, we got to move on to Proverbs 31. Now, Proverbs 31 deals with a virtuous woman, and we're not going to tear it apart, but we will look at a few of them. Proverbs 31:10. Oh, hold it. Stop. Time out. We got to go back. Proverbs 12. Go to Proverbs 12. Hold 31. We're coming there after Proverbs 12:4. Proverbs 12:4 tells us, a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that makes ashamed is as rottenness in his bones. So this is the team. And even though Eve cost Adam his job and they had to move, and they, the whole land and everything, it just was a heck of a lot more work and thorns and thistles and all of that. They had to stay together. Well, there's nobody else, but they stayed together and they continued to move. And so the English Standard Version uses the word excellent. An excellent woman, oh, most excellent woman. This virtuous woman, this most excellent woman is a crown to her husband, but she that makes a shame is his rottenness in his bones. If your bones, just, the innermost part of you is just rotting away because of the relationship. All right, now we go to Proverbs 31 because we're looking for a virtuous woman. Because it tells us that in 31:10, who can find a virtuous woman? Who can find an excellent woman? Who can find a diligent woman? For her price is far above rubies. Then Lincoln sent me a thing one time. It says, we don't protect women because they need protection. It's because they're valuable. So what we have are a number of virtuous, excellent women, and their price is far above rubies, far above jewels. The heart of her husband does safely trust in her. And that's the first point that's brought up with a virtuous woman who's going to be raising the children and balancing the household. The heart of her husband does safely trust in her. That's a big deal. He can go off to work and deal with the thorns and the thistles and sweat on his brow and all those type of things because his heart is taken care of. The heart of her husband does safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. It should be so that he shall have no lack of gain. He's not going to lose anything because he's out working and doing all kinds of other things. He can trust her to do what she needs to do. There'll be no lack of gain. She will do him good, and she won't do him evil or harm. She shall do him good and not do him harm all the days of her life. It's not a 3 to 5 year plan. You know, you don't have machines where you just go get a divorce, throw in the buck, 4 quarters, and boom, here's your divorce. All the days of her life, she will do him good and not harm all the days of her life that she's taking care of, and so he can trust her. Okay, jump to 25, 31:25. Strength and honor are her clothing, honor, dignity. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. I read a translation which I thought was which was better. And she shall laugh at the time to come. You know, and she, knowing what's ahead, raising children and other things that's going on, she's got strength and dignity, so she just laughs at the time to come. I'm going on vacation, and I know all the work that besets me to go on vacation. She just laughs at the time to come. And then she opens her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looks well to the ways of her household. All right, everybody got clothing. Anybody need any more shoes? You're going out of your shoes. You need a baseball glove, you know, things like that. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. And I love the way that's put. And eats not the bread of idleness. And her children arise, and the children call her blessed. That's a wonderful thing. You want to keep those kind of children around, not the ones from Deuteronomy. Her children arise up. Her children, plural. So they rise up and they call her blessed. And when the husband gets up, he praises her. Get up and make coffee or take care of the kids, or he praises her because she does all of these things. Many daughters or many women have done virtuously. Many women have done virtuously, but thou exceedest them all. You surpass them all. That's how you should treat your, the spouse, the mother on Mother's Day, and all the whole year. Many women have done virtuously. They are excellent in their walk, but you surpass them all because she's right there for you. Now, favor is deceitful. The word favor there is the word charm or comeliness, right? That's deceitful. And beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. That's what you're after. You want to, praise her like in 28, the children, and that because she fears the Lord. She reverences the Lord. The Lord is first in her life. So because of the love that she knows from that, she can be praised because, you didn't fall for the charm, you didn't fall for the beauty. It's because of her heart with God. So give her, verse 31, give her of the fruit of her hands and let her own works praise her in the gates. She's going to be doing her own works that will bring praise to the community by the fruit of her hands. So that's Proverbs 31. Now, let's look at some examples of virtuous women. We'll go to Judges 4. We're going to stay back here in the early parts of the Old Testament. So this, of course, I found some really, not the ones you would normally think of as virtuous to start with, but Judges 4, okay? And we're going to pick it up in verse 16. Okay. Judges 4:16. All right, so there is war. Baruch is leading the Jewish army, and they just won the battle because of God. Sisera and his 900 chariots got stuck in the mud, and they couldn't maneuver properly. And so Baruch took him out with the edge of the sword, and Sisera left his chariot, and he fled out on foot. And Baruch pursued after the chariots and after the host, and they were wiping them out, all the way into Hashasheth of the Gentiles. And all the host of Sisera fell upon the edge of the sword, and there wasn't a man left. Howbeit, though, Sisera fled away on his feet to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. For there was peace between Jabin, the king of Hazor, and the house of Heber the Kenite. Okay, so Jael went out to meet Sisera. Sisera is running for his life. He left his chariot, but he's going to a peaceful area. And she said, "Turn in, my lord, turn into me, and fear not." So he's going to have to give his protection. Sisera's turning his protection to Jael. When she turned And when he had turned in unto her into the tent, first thing she does is she covers him with a mantle. And he said unto her, give me, I pray thee, a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. And instead of water, she opened a bottle of milk. So it's buttermilk there. I mean, it's not she got a Dixie, where she unscrews the cap and hands it to him, and she opened the buttermilk, and it would be in a goat skin, gave him drink and covered him. Now, what's there is, it being buttermilk, is that salt was used to make it. So she's taking a salt covenant with him. She's covering him up, putting a mantle over him for protection. That's what that figuratively means, the protection. She's going to protect him at all costs. And then she's taking a salt covenant with him that she will not deny him. And again, 20, verse 20, again, he said unto her, I need you to stand in the tent. And if somebody shows up and they want to know if I'm there, you got to say, he is not there. Is there any man here? No, there is nobody there. You need to lie for him. And Jael, Heber's wife, then. So she made 3 covenants there. She's got the mantle, I'll stand there and protect you. I'll did a salt covenant. I will lie for you. And then Jael, Heber's wife, took a nail of the tent, took a hammer in her hand, went softly unto him, and smote the nail into his temples, and fastened it into the ground, for he was fast asleep, and he was weary, so he died. Okay, and she's called a virtuous woman? Well, let's see, verse 22, and behold, as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came out to meet him, and said, come, I will show you the man whom you're seeking. And when he came into her tent, behold, Sisera lay dead, and the nail was in his temples. So God subdued on that day Jabin, the king of Canaan, before the children of Israel. One of the things that was told Barak was that because he wouldn't go without Deborah, who we'll read something about in a minute here, basically, because of his not going without the prophetess, it was foretold that God would get the glory, God would do the work, but he would get no honor. And basically, that's what happened here. Another woman, because you wanted a woman to come with you, another woman would take care of, your light work, so to speak. So God subdued on that day Jabin, the king of Canaan, before the children of Israel, and the hand of the children of Israel prospered, because they had taken out the idolatry, and they had taken out those who were ruling over them. And then 5:1 says, then sang Deborah and Barak, they sang praises before them, and praise ye the Lord for the avenging of Israel, when the people willingly offered themselves. So jump down to 24, 5:24. So they sang praises. 24, blessed, 5:24, blessed above women shall Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, be. Blessed shall she be above women in the tent. He asked water, and she gave him milk. She brought forth butter in the lordly dish, but then she had to kill him, because what we'd seen back, go back to 4:22, when he came into her tent, she, Jael, basically brought Barak into her tent. And in that culture, a man was not to be ever in the tent of a woman on that side of it. He felt that salt covenant wasn't good enough. Might be able to push the woman out of the way. The line may not hold up. So he had gone to one place where he knew Sisera couldn't go, in the woman's side of the tent. But to protect her honor, she had no choice but to take him out. He wasn't supposed to be there. So she executed what the law said, with him overstepping his grounds, overstepping what he was supposed to do. And that is why she did the most honorable thing, even though she had said she would do something else. But because he overstepped all the honorable things, then she's being praised for being an honorable woman, because she had no choice but to fulfill the law of killing him. So, and then she's called. Look at 4:5:1 again. That doesn't say it there. It calls her. Oh, okay. It calls her Deborah earlier. She's called a prophetess. She was a prophetess for Israel, and she called for Barak to come and sent Barak out to go ahead and do his duty. So she also had children, and that was all part of it. I mean, she had a family, she had a husband, she had, and then she also was a spokesman for God. And then she went with Barak on this mission. So that's the first one I want to look at. It's not your normal record that we'll go to, but look at First Samuel. Okay. First Samuel 2, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, Samuel. We're going to do Ruth 2 in a minute. But First Samuel 2, okay? And we pick it up in verse 18. Hannah, okay, I got to read you 1:8 first. First Samuel 1:8. She can't have children. And she's been praying to God, and she shows up, and she's very miserable. And in First Samuel 1:8, we have a typical male response, a typical husband. 1:8. Then Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why are you crying? Why are you weeping? And why don't you eat with the rest of us? Why is your heart grieved? And here it is. Am not I better to thee than 10 sons? Come on, you got me. You don't really need any more children. Even if you had 10 of them, I'm going to be better. Somehow that's how men think, not how women think. So she then vowed a vow, if I have a child, I'm going to give him to the Lord. And then Eli went ahead and interceded on her behalf before God, and she had a son. Of course, the son's name is Samuel, and we're reading in the book of Samuel. He must have turned out pretty good. But anyway, chapter 2, verse 18. 1 Samuel 2:18, we read, but Samuel ministered before the Lord, being a child, girded with a linen ephod. Now, I love verse 19. Moreover, his mother made him a little coat or a little robe and brought it to him from year to year when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. I love, again, God, of all the things he could say, talking about Hannah, she brings her son a coat. He doesn't live off of the temple stuff. He needs certain supplies. When she shows up, moreover, his mother made him a little coat. Now, that's a virtuous woman. And every year when she'd come, she'd, how big do you think he's going to be? And so that she brings another one, then another one. Okay. And then verse 20, and Eli blessed Elkanah and his wife and said, the Lord give thee seed of this woman for the loan or for the petition. The word loan's terrible. We're loaning my kid to God. No. The Lord giveth thee seed of this woman for the petition which she asked for of the Lord. And they went home into the house. So Eli noticed that a coat was showing up, a robe was showing up every year, and that they were very good people. And he said, the Lord's going to bless you with more children. Bless the seed of this woman who, because she petitioned God and she went through when she had the son and gave him to us. And he's a really good worker around here. And then the Lord visited Hannah so that she conceived, and she had 3 more sons, 2 daughters, and the child Samuel grew before the Lord. So her oldest, Samuel, her attitude, crying out to God, having God answer the prayer, the husband endeavoring to do the best he could, but she was barren. And then the prophet, Eli again, he interceded and she had more children, but she just would take care of her little boy every year. She made sure he had his needs met. Go to Ruth 1. Joshua, Judges, Ruth, then Samuel. Ruth 1. We'll start in verse 16. Naomi and her husband decided to leave Israel because there was a famine. They went to Moab, and in Moab, her husband died. And then her 2 daughters who had husbands, and the husbands died. And now she's in a predicament. She's going to go home, and she has no husband. She has no sons. And here's what she tells her daughter-in-laws in 1:16. She said, "You guys stay here. This is your land. I'm going to go back to Israel." And then Ruth, one of those who had married one of her sons, said, "Entreat me not to leave you, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I'm going to go too. Where thou lodgest, I'll lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God." Wow. This is a Moabitess. This is not somebody of the tribe of Israel. Okay. But she had such great respect for her mother-in-law that she says, "I'll go with you. Your life hasn't been that great recently, but I'm not going anywhere. Wherever you go, I'm going to go." And verse 17 says, "When you die, I'm going to die. And where you're buried, I'm going to, the Lord will do so to me. More also if aught but death part thee and me. It'll be wrong if anything happens. I'm going with you to help take care of you." All right. "And I'm even going to take your God." When she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, well, what could Naomi say? So the two of them went to Bethlehem. And it came to pass when they came into Bethlehem, all the city was moved. "Look, Naomi's back. Naomi's back." And she said, "Oh, call me Naomi. Call me Mara. For the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full with the husband and 2 boys, and the Lord has brought me home again empty." Boy, don't call me Naomi, seeing the Lord hath testified against me, and the Almighty have afflicted me. So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, came with her, and they returned from Moab, came to Bethlehem, and by the way, it was the beginning of the barley harvest. So we've got a mother who's very sorrowful because her whole life fell apart, and she just kind of called back home, but she did have Ruth with her. Okay, so chapter 2. And again, I'm only doing the highlights of these. It would be great if you wanted to read all the books and the whole records of these, but 2:4, "And behold, Boaz." Now, she's there and she goes to glean in the field. All right. So while she's there, she's in the field of Boaz. And Boaz came from Bethlehem, and he's got lots of business deals, and he comes there and he walks into all the reapers, all of his employees. And I'm sure you probably have a boss that greets you this way. "Ah, the Lord be with you." And you answer, "Ah, the Lord bless thee back." I don't know how many people, especially if you're, working for the police department in Pueblo, that's what it's like. The boss comes in, and first thing they say to you is, "Ah, the Lord be with you today." And you say, "Ah, the Lord be with you too." Well, that gives you a little insight into Boaz. Then says, "Boaz unto the servant that was set over the reapers." Well, whose damsel is this? Who's this girl that's out there working, doing stuff? And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, "It's the Moabitess damsel that came back with Naomi." And she said, "I pray you, please let me glean and gather after the reapers." When they would go through the fields, they would gather everything, and sometimes they would miss corners on purpose so the poor people could come there and they could gather food that they could eat. And so that was done as like their abundant sharing for their crops. So they would leave things like that specifically. So the reapers would follow, and they, depending upon how hard they worked, they could get some food. I don't think they stood on street corners with signs that say, "Oh, God bless you, please give me money." "I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves." So she came, and she has continued even from the morning until now. She only went in she tarried a little bit in the house. She went in for a bathroom break, or a coffee, and then right back out in the fields again. All right. And that's all. She's been here all day. Then said Boaz unto Ruth, "Hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence. Abide here fast by my maidens. Let thy eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged the young men to keep your hands off of you? And when thou art athirst, go into the vessels and drink of that which the young men have drawn." So she's got full access to water, and there's no fear of anything happening to her in the fields. So she fell on her face, bowed herself to the ground, and said unto him, "Why have I found grace in thy eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, saying, I'm just a stranger, it's my first day here?" And look at Boaz's answer. Verse 11. He said, "It hath fully been showed me all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the death of thy husband, how thou hast left thy father, you left your mother, you left your land of nativity, and you have come to a people which thou knewest not heretofore." So he knew what she had given up to come do this freely. And his response is, the Lord is going to pay you back. The Lord is going to recompense thy work. And you're going to get a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust. She took Naomi's God and has the trust in that God. She came with her, the new land. This is all new things, don't work in the field. And that because you have accepted the God of Israel, who's the true God, and you trusted in him, he will back up what he has said. What all the people are saying that he's willing to do, he's going to do for you. I don't know how many bosses you've had that told you things like that. Then she said, "Oh, let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord, for that thou hast comforted me, and for that thou hast spoken friendly unto thy handmaid, though I be not like unto one of the other handmaidens." So basically, the door just opened to take care of her the whole time. So let's jump over to chapter 4, into the story. A lot of wonderful things happen. Now we get to 4:9. He realizes that he's number 2 in line, and he could be the daysman and take care of her. The one before him decided not to. And then 4:9, Boaz says to the elders and unto all the people, "You are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi," those are the 2 sons. "Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren. From the gate of his palace you are witnesses this day." And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, "We're witnesses. The Lord," and then these are good things that they're saying to her. "The Lord make the woman that is come unto thine house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel." They kept having lots of children. "And do thou worthily in Ephratah, which is Bethlehem, and let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah." Again, not somebody who should not when you understand that story, Pharez was again did the right thing, the worthy thing, the honorable thing. All right, and then she's also finds herself in the Christ line, who Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which the Lord shall give thee of the young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, she was his wife, and when he went in unto her, the Lord gave her conception, she bare a son. And the woman said unto Naomi, this is to the grandmother, "Blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman, that thy name may be famous in Israel." Well, we're talking about her 3,000 years later. So they're telling Naomi, it's like it's Naomi's child. "And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, a nourisher of thy old age. For thy daughter-in-law, which loves thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, hath borne him." So we had an opportunity where the guy thought, "Hey, I'm better than 10." And they're saying, "Hey, it's better than 7 sons, what this, your daughter-in-law has done for you." And then Naomi took the child, laid it in her bosom, and became nurse unto it. And the woman, her neighbors, gave it a name. They started calling it the son of Naomi, because kid pretty much lived with Naomi. And they called his name Obed. By the way, this child, he's the father of Jesse, who just happens to be the father of David. So in the Christ line, major person, because of the commitment of the mother of Obed, the grandmother of Jesse, the father of David. Her coming from Moab to be a part of Israel and to serve the God of Israel, she ended up in the Christ line. But she was a virtuous woman. She was an excellent woman. She was one that was worthy of praise and very honorable. She didn't take leaving her land and switching gods lightly, but she accepted it and did everything she was supposed to do and was a very hard worker and everything. A very much wonderful person. We got time for one more. We got to go to Joshua. Okay. Because here's another thing where the mother, very, very instrumental in saving her house. Joshua 2. Okay. We don't have time to do Queen Esther. We don't have time for Rebecca, who's one of my favorites, Isaac's wife, and how God had told her that the younger would be more important than the older, and what she needed to do. And Abraham's wife, Sarah, Moses' mom, what she had to do to keep her son alive. These people were in peril of their lives, and they did things. So one more being Joshua 2. All right, after Deuteronomy, we got Joshua. After 1, we got 2. And we pick it up, chapter 2, verse 1. And we read, Joshua the son of Nun sent out to Shechem 2 men, sent out of Shechem 2 men to spy secretly, saying, go check out the land of Jericho. And they went. They came into an innkeeper's house named Rahab, and they lodged there. Now, Rahab is going to have to be doing something here, which is incredible, but we'll see an insight as to why. We saw that Ruth's insight was, I will take care of my mother-in-law. I will do what I need to do. Even exchanging gods. And she was a very honorable person. We saw Jael had to do what was honorable, what was right, at the expense of somebody that who, again, didn't do what he was supposed to do. And so, verse 2, it was told the king of Jericho, 2 men came hither tonight in the children of Israel to search out the country. She's an innkeeper, so they needed a place to stay. Rang the door, little bell, ding. Can we have a room tonight? And word got out. Hey, these guys came in the middle of the night. What's going on? And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab and said, bring forth the men. This is the king. This is the guy in charge. He's the one who could have her executed, which are entered into your house. They came to search out the country. And the woman took the 2 men, and what did she do? Gave them up. No, she hid them. She hid them and said, yeah, you're right. There came men unto me. I don't know where they came from, though. And it came to pass about the time of the shutting of the gates when they showed up. They showed up right at nighttime when we shut the gate. When it was dark, so I didn't really know, didn't get a good look at them. And then the men came, and then they took off. Where they went, I don't know. But if you pursue after them quickly, you can overtake them. They haven't left that long ago. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house, hid them with the stalks of the flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof. And the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords. As soon as they which pursued after them are gone, then she shut the gate. And before they were laid down, she came up onto the rooftop where she had them hiding. You would put your crops up there, but some of them real long, and then you could hide in them. And that's what they did to dry them out. And she said unto the men, I know. You look at the children of Israel and how much unbelief there was. Here is a woman, an innkeeper, and she, we got people coming and going. She hears stories. She knows what's going on. And she realizes, I know that the Lord has given you the land. I know that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land are faint because of you. Why? For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when he came out of Egypt, and what you did unto the 2 kings of the Amorites that were on the other side of Jordan, Sihon and Og, who you utterly destroyed. We know all of this. That was 40 years ago. And as soon as we had heard these things, our hearts did melt, neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and in earth beneath. She recognized that they were serving a very powerful God who could take out kings, who can stop water, dry it up. So she knew, and so did everybody else. Great fear had really taken hold of Jericho. Now, therefore, I pray you, swear unto me by the Lord, since I have showed you kindness, that you will also show kindness unto my father's house. Give me a true token, and that you will save alive. You're going to save my father. You're going to save my mother. You're going to save my brethren. You're going to save my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. And the men said, yes, we will. And if we go to chapter 6, Joshua 6, so the rest of the story. They kept walking around Jericho, and eventually the walls came down. And 6:22, we read, and Joshua had said unto the 2 men that had spied out the country, go to the innkeeper's house, bring out that woman and all that she has, as you swear unto her. And the young men that were spies went in. They brought out Rahab, her father, her mother, her brother, and everybody else that was in there, all their kindred, and left them without the camp of Israel and burnt the city with fire. She recognized the power of the true God, and she knew that her family's life was in jeopardy. She chose to go against the king's commandment, to tell the king, I don't know what happened to them. And then they and all her family were saved because of what the innkeeper, the mother, did to protect her family. So those are just some examples. We got one more to go. We got to go to Luke 1. I'm just going to read one verse because Mary and Elizabeth are two on Mother's Day. You always have to think of, because of course Elizabeth, her child was John the Baptist, and Mary's was Jesus. So I mean, it doesn't get much. You're talking about royalty there, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. Minor things. But Luke 1, and we'll pick it up in verse 37. One, two verses. Luke 1:37. Because she says, and this is a terrible translation, for with God nothing shall be impossible. Well, God said he's not going to destroy the earth by water anymore. So that would be impossible for him to go back on that. And there's other things like that. And we know from the Greek that it reads, for with God not anything spoken shall be impossible or void of power. Okay? Nothing that God says shall be impossible. If God says it, it's going to happen. And that's the point there. If God says it, nothing is impossible. If God speaks that it's going to happen. That's what it's saying into this verse. And anything spoken by God that's going to come to pass. It was impossible not to come to pass. And now verse 38 is the insight of on Mother's Day to know. And Mary said, behold, the handmaid of the Lord. I'm just the servant of the Lord. But be it unto me according to thy word. I'm willing to do whatever it is you need me to do to protect my husband, to protect my family, for movement of the word, to do whatever it takes. I am willing. And to have the child Jesus and then to raise him up, what a responsibility. Be it unto me according to thy word.